All right, finding the perfect creators for your brand. Exciting. We're getting into the fun bits now. Let's get on the same page. The perfect creator is a creator who perfectly reaches your target audience. One-to-one match. That's the perfect creator. We might not reach that ideal, but that's the ideal that we're looking for. Someone who reaches your target audience perfectly. For example, if you're targeting the US, you don't need creators with big audiences in India. And if you're targeting India, you don't need creators with big audiences in US. These things matter. Or for example, if 30% of a creator's audience is in Germany and you sell really expensive custom bikes in California, then probably you're really saturated out of that Californian market, and it doesn't make sense to spend a bunch of money with that creator. First and foremost is an easy one. You want to pick creators that have high engagement on their content. On Instagram, that means like 2% of their following base interacts with their content. On YouTube, it could be something a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you just want that audience to be engaged, leaving comments, liking posts, and watching videos over and over again. That's a sign that they actually care about the person behind the camera. Like you do, dear viewer, I hope. Next bit, start small. Big follower numbers don't always mean big impact. We usually recommend for most brands who are just getting started to focus on people with a following range between 50 and maybe 100,000 followers on a given social network. This is really at the intersection of pretty low costs and flexibility in negotiation, as well as easy to reach and contact because they're not quite as bombarded as the mega famous. And overall, they seem to have stronger relationships with their audience, which means they reach them more effectively and are able to communicate with them more directly. Large creators, on the other hand, above 250, getting up to 1 million followers, these people are really hard to reach. They're celebrities at this point. And on top of that, they probably have layers of bureaucracy and management and so on that you're going to have to go through just to close a deal. And those deal terms might have to be really rigid because they're based on the agency that's managing the creator rather than necessarily what's best for the creator at the end of the day. So to sum up, at this point, we have creators who effectively reach our target cities. That means their audience is located in that location. They also have meaningful engagement rates and their audience is ready and willing to interact with their content. And they have somewhere between 50 and 100,000 followers, so you know you can reach them and you have some flexibility in negotiating the cost. Okay, now that you have your quantitative metrics like your target audience demographics in order, it's time to think about qualitative data. Does this influencer well represent your brand? Do they meet the core values and the kind of morals that represent who you are? You don't have to get too hung up on whether or not the creator has historically talked about products like yours or that they've perfectly reflected on ideas that relate to your company in the past. They just have to be enough on brand that you'd be willing to let them represent you. I know what you're thinking, Avery, what about fake followers? I don't want to be working with creators who don't have real audiences, and thank you for mentioning it because it is an important thing to consider. But everyone has fake followers. You have fake followers. I had fake followers. So it's important not to judge too harshly. It's not necessarily the case that people have purchased followers, and at the end of the day, you care more about the authentic reach than the fake reach, right? So keep your fake follower number somewhere under the 25% of the total audience range, and you should be totally fine. In order to check your fake followers, you can always use Modash, of course, and if you're not certain, then write us, and we'll let you know if that creator looks like a fit. Now, you have great creators, they reach your target audience, they're in a follower range that you can reasonably recruit, they don't have fake followers, and you're good to go. So, it's time to start experimenting now after you've recruited your first 25 creators that match all the criteria we just discussed. Recruit them, and it's time to put your lab coat on. Let's run some experiments. First things I would personally do is start experimenting with a little bit larger and a little bit smaller follower ranges. Everyone has a little bit different experience because your brand is a little different, your messaging is a little different, creators will perceive you differently. So, in some cases, when you start working with larger creators, for example, you're going to learn that they send floods of traffic to your website, and that can be used to retarget later with your retargeting pixels. Or when you run an experiment working with slightly smaller creators, you might learn, for example, that the recruitment rates are way higher, you recruit way faster, and you have to pay less. In that case, you'd want to double down in that direction. But you need to be running those small, specific experiments and learning over time so that you can optimize your return on investment. The main things you want to look for are reductions in cost and increase on return. So for example, if creators are easier to recruit, cost less, or convert more customers. Okay, summarizing everything we just discussed. First, you want to focus on the quantitative hard metrics. Does the person reach audiences in your target city with age and gender that lean in the direction of your general customer, and do they have high engagement rates and can relate to their audience? To start out, we recommend 50 to 100,000 followers. After that, you're going to start running experiments and optimizing over time. It's going to be fantastic, and we're going to move on to recruiting. So thank you very much for watching this video. In the next one, we'll talk about how to get a hold of those influencers, negotiate with them, and make sure you start closing new ambassadors.